Okay, so just moving forwards, what we're going to do now is start looking at how we can get Flash file interacting with JavaScript inside of a HTML page. So before I move forwards, I'm just going to review it'll let me. String equals string. Okay. So this won't work. Well, this will work still, but I'm just going to replace that with HLink, and then we'll save and test that before I go any further. Okay, it seems to work okay. I can get rid of the trace statements, don't really need any of these right now. The trace statements are only really for testing purposes. Okay, so cleans up things a little bit. And I'm also going to use external interface call, and then we'll call a specific function. Okay, so I will create a function in the web page eventually called JSCP handler, short for JavaScript Q point handler, to respond. So it's best to keep things like this meaningful. I'm also going to send it some parameters. The parameter I'll send is the link, which ultimately we will use in an iframe to change what's being seen on the side of the page. Okay, so I'll just save at that point, and then what I'll do is just test that again to make sure that everything is in the SWF. Oops. CP link. Yes. Probably help if I use the name that I've created in this instance, which is HLink. So let's just test that again. Everything should run. Going fine. Okay, that's working. And then what I want to do is to publish that, so that we've got the web page ready to go. By default, I'm not sure if it's going to open up. No, we've got a HTML page now called Video Test Free, and what I need to do is to now start working in Dreamweaver. So I'll close Flash down for the time being and open up Dreamweaver C6. There we go. In this case, I've got a server set up, and it seems though we've already done this as part of this project. I'm going to skip over that. So let's look at my local view. My local view, everything's in this folder here. So I will run from that for this time only. On the HTML file, there we go, and this is what it looks like. Okay, it puts quite a bit of code in, to be fair. You see all these parameters, this bit here is saying if it's not IE, then it's slightly different how it brings it in. So it looks a little bit messy like that. And all I'm going to do is then put in an iframe, source originally was example East Riding Media, where eventually this example will end up. Close the iframe up, give it an ID, and I'll just call that target frame for now. And I'll just change the doc type to just be HTML5, so we'll get rid of all of this, make it a little bit cleaner for ourselves. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some script into the page. We'll take it by default that it's JavaScript, so I don't need to declare the language anymore. And then what I'll do is I will create a function. The function was called JSCP handler. It's expecting at least one parameter, and that parameter will be the link. And then what we do with that is up to us. So to start off with, I'll just console log it, check that information is being passed through. Now all I can really do at this point then is upload the files that are required and then test them. So that would be the HTML file, the SWF file, and the video file. And the controls, because I've got it set to have the controls on. Upload that. And the class file would have been compiled into the SWF. So I'll just leave that for a few minutes and come back to the video at that point. Okay, so what we're going to try and do at this point is to get something out of the page when we start speaking to JavaScript. Now this won't work on a local machine. You'll have to test on a server for this, really, because of the way that security settings are for Flash Player. Quite often it's not allowed to do these kind of things locally, but when it works, when you're working on the server, which is where it's all going to wind up, everything should be fine. So we're going to be looking to use something called ExternalInterface to call JavaScript. So I'll just go ahead and start putting some of these things into meaningful links. So rather than tracing out this information, I'm not going to put it into variables. So the only thing I'm really using at this point is the link. So I'll just put that into a variable, and I'll call that page link, which can be a string. So before we move on, I'm just going to review the publish settings and show you what they look like. Okay, by default it should publish a Flash file, SWF, and also one set will be the HTML wrapper. which is what we want to make sure is checked. There's certain things we can set up, but for example, you might want to change your window mode to windowless, transparent windowless, things like that. If you want to make it look a bit more professional, like desktop application. In this case, it's just to run in window, so I can live with the defaults. And when we get to that point, we will just be able to publish. And what it will do is it will create a HTML page containing all the embed codes for the Flash object. It's just a bit of a lazy way of doing it, to be honest, but it works. Okay, so let's test this page. So what I want the video to do is to run through, and hopefully in the JavaScript console, I'm using Chrome at the moment, we should see some of the links pop out as well as the on-screen stuff. There we go, and there's one of the links. A little bit further on. There's the next link. I can't remember where the last one is, but we've seen enough of them working. Oh, interesting. That's something we'd maybe want to take care of, is the fact that the movie clips cover up the user interface. Okay, so we know that this information is coming through, so all we need to do then is handle it. So let's go back into Dreamweaver and do just that. I'll just raise some changes that I've made to the styles. What I've done is I've floated both of the elements of the Flash content divs and the target frame iframe. Set up some width and height to try and make them a little bit more organised, and then what we need to do is to access the source property of the target frame. So dot source equals link. Save that, upload that. Shouldn't be independent files this time. Go back to the page, refresh the page. We should still get the console log. So we see to the right there, it's loaded the page, which still exists, and the iPlayer page on the next link doesn't actually really exist anymore. It's expired, but we'll still get a page with some description, I suspect. There we go. Bit of a delay. Took a few seconds to come through, as you would expect. But I don't suppose necessarily you would have it responding as frequently as this in a real-world example. And ideally, you probably would use XML over HTTP request to make it asynchronous and be a little bit less resource intensive in use. But there we go, it's a little bit of a dirty code, but it illustrates exactly how it can be done, proof of concept, and the underlying concepts to achieve it. So that's the end of this example.